With Ghostbusters Frozen Empire dropping on Netflix this week, I figured it was time to do a review of the film and a discussion on the Ghostbusters franchise as it stands today.
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes!
Hello my friends and welcome to The Pondering. I am the real-life fake wizard. If this video brings you any value at all, I invite you to subscribe to this channel where we're posting new videos nearly every day. Please subscribe. In 2021, we got Ghostbusters 3, titled Ghostbusters Afterlife, which serves as a direct sequel to 1989's Ghostbusters 2. With the passing of Harold Ramis in 2014, we were never going to get the Ghostbusters 3 we always wanted, a reunion with the original four heroes. Instead, Afterlife picks up with Egon Spengler having become estranged from his family for some reason, going off away from New York and building a super ghost trap on a farm somewhere. Upon his death getting mauled by Zool, his farm and belongings are inherited by his daughter Carrie and her kids Phoebe and Trevor. From there, the ghost-busting adventure slogs on for 124 minutes. Here's a note about movies: longer doesn't mean better. In this case, those 2 hours drag along for a while. It's for this reason I've only seen the movie once, and I will likely never watch it again. I love a good 90-minute feature. You could do amazing things in 90 minutes. Lord of the Rings needs to be 4 hours because there's that much going on in the story. There's nothing going on in either of these modern Ghostbuster films. Afterlife resolves with a gently satisfying conclusion wherein the original crew returns to face off with Zool once more, finally trapping the creature and saying goodbye to Egon Spengler. While I have serious issues with how they handled Egon and the late Harold Ramis, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, I think the idea of him being a helpful spirit throughout the film, leading Phoebe along to discover what he was doing, was a good play. It was a safe play. The final battle, where Egon appears to help Phoebe hold up the proton blaster, was emotional. I got to see Afterlife at a secret premiere at New York Comic Con 2021. We thought we were there for a panel where the whole crew comes out to answer questions. And while they did come out, Jason Reitman ended by saying, "You've waited long enough."
My father and I think you've waited long enough.
Let's show it! They played the movie. It was a really special experience, and I was glad to be a part of it. I've been a fan of the original Ghostbusters film for as long as I can remember. It was the kind of movie my parents would put on anytime it was on cable, and come Halloween time, it was in my rotation of Halloween-themed DVDs to run through. So, having an emotional attachment to the originals, seeing what else they did to Egon in Afterlife, I can't quite say I like it. Harold Ramis has passed, yes. How do we incorporate Egon into a sequel film without Harold Ramis? This is a hard one. This is a brain teaser. Wait a second. What if he's a walkout dad? Ah, yes, the good old legacy male character beloved by fans that walks out on their kids, families, and friends. How fucking original. It's jarring that this film would come at a perspective of saying Egon knew about this world-ending threat and just never told anyone all these years. So his daughter thought he abandoned them and the other Ghostbusters just didn't know what was going on. This feels like the kind of plot point that needed to be talked out a little bit further in the writer's room. Egon sacrificing himself and being a lingering spirit to help the family, while sad, makes sense under the circumstances. The abandoning of the family could have been played in a much more cohesive and emotional way. Ghostbusters Afterlife was good, maybe even dull. The more you look at it, the worse it seems to become, which is another reason why I won't watch it again. I will continue to wear the nostalgia goggles for Afterlife. The Afterlife box office made around $200 million and allegedly had a budget of $75 million, making it just profitable enough to get a sequel, and that sequel should not exist.
Coffee, Mr. Tully?
Do I?
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some.
Despite the flaws of Afterlife, it was played off like a true conclusion. They brought back the legacy characters and villain of the original film for a final confrontation. It had a positive send-off for Harold Ramis, dedicating the film to him. It was a return to form after the atrocity and shit stain that Ghostbusters 2016 had put on the franchise. But the movie made money. Just enough money to warrant the green light on another sequel. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire 2024 serves as the fourth canon entry into the Ghostbusters saga. with the original cast and new cast reprising their roles. This time we're back in New York City, baby, where the film opens on a car chase with the misfit Spangler family chasing a big blue CGI dragon through the streets. The misfits do copious amounts of damage to the city, which leads to Mayor Peck, previously seen in Ghostbusters 1 as an antagonist, saying that the Ghostbusters should be shut down and that Phoebe, a 15-year-old, should not be on the team. Frozen Empire does not feel like a movie. It does not feel like art. It feels like a product, and not a good product. Everyone knows about that Martin Scorsese cinema meme. This film plays into that argument Scorsese makes. Ghostbusters 4 is another 2-hour slogfest, paint-by-numbers plot with predictable twists and turns. This is conveyor belt movie making that ends with the classic theme song playing over the credits, and it makes you sad because you realize how far we have fallen from what used to be great. I had to pause and come back again and also skip through scenes because I was so bored. I think that's the greatest sin you can commit as a filmmaker. Bore your audience. When Madam Web and Ghostbusters 2016 are better watch experiences than Ghostbusters 4, we have a big problem. Also, I'm not saying those movies are good by any means. Those movies are dog shit. They're just not as boring as Frozen Empire is. We spend the opening 40 minutes just wasting time with the characters, hanging out with them and seeing what they're up to. Don't worry, the audience has nothing better to be doing, right? Until eventually some of our heroes find themselves with secret society member librarian Patton Oswalt, who takes them to a secret chamber inside the New York Public Library and just so happens to know all of the lore our heroes are looking for right now. Oh, you want to know about gobbledygook? Well, I know everything about gobbledygook. Here's a large book that happens to be already sitting on the table about gobbledygook. Let me read it to you. Cue the montage. Skip that line. Oh, I also just so happen to have a recording right here of the incantation to free gobbledygook from Gobble's spherical prison.
Spherical! Spherical!
There is not a lot of redemption in this film. As a young man in my youth, I once said that while I didn't love Book of Boba Fett, I was glad it existed because more Star Wars is better than less. And since then, I've grown this beard. That was very much a wrong sentiment. It's time to let some franchises lie. Let them have their moment in the sun, and then end it. It's okay. It's okay to let things end. Nostalgia and memories of the good times are more valuable than trying to make a quick buck on the past. Because now those memories of the good times are forever stained by the drivel you've put out today. In Frozen Empire, the original crew are back for 5 or 10-minute cameos. I don't see them as their original characters anymore. Firstly, because they're not the protagonists. They've been reduced to side characters. But secondly, because they're just phoning it in for the paycheck. I don't see Dan Aykroyd as Ray Stantz anymore. I just saw him as Dan Aykroyd, who actually is into all of the occult stuff IRL. Look over here, Bill Murray, everyone, who is in the movie for the final fight because we want to put him on the poster. Again. At least they gave Ernie Hudson something important to do, running the research lab that the misfit Spanglers were never told about for some reason. There was a lot of commotion from the handful of people who saw Frozen Empire in theaters about the strange romantic chemistry between Kid Phoebe and Ghost Kid Melody, that it was strange to have a romantic interest plotline between a human child and a ghost child. I think the idea of having a ghost manipulate a Ghostbuster is interesting, for a ghost to appeal to the humanity of a living person in order to accomplish a nefarious goal. There is a story there. It did not need to have the romantic connotations to it, and perhaps this is just me projecting onto the film like others did. Regardless, the romantic discourse is nothing compared to the god-awful resolution we got for Kid Ghost Melody. Melody is trapped as a ghost with unfinished business after having accidentally immolated herself and whole family. She works with bad guy Gobbledygook willingly after being promised that Lord Gobbledyes will open the void for her to pass on into the next life. willingly is important because Gobbledy's nuts can possess other ghosts and control them. So Melody is selfish and bad. She also has this kind of habit of lighting a match in the matchbook she carries that she used to start the fire that ended her whole family. Okay, you know how she finds redemption? It's f***ing ridiculous. After all our heroes are frozen by bad guy Gobble, Ghost Kid Melody randomly and without reason sparks a match, which Firebender Kumail Nanjiani uses to free the other heroes from the ice. Ghost Kid had no intention of helping the heroes and save them all on a technicality which would give her soul redemption, and she fades away like Egon did in the last film. This is awful storytelling for two reasons. One, it's an unearned redemption, which is something that all too many Hollywood movies are okay with portraying these days. This character said she had unfinished business, to imply that she was trapped as a ghost and unable to pass on, having to wait countless years for the right moment for Lord Gobblebobble to show up and be a cog in the machine that defeats him, opens up a whole textbook of unanswerable lore questions. Unfinished business usually pertains to something in one's past, not a destiny to be performed in the future. She didn't earn her redemption just by being there. The second reason, in light of the first reason, and plays into a much more meta conversation, she manipulated Phoebe into Minecrafting herself. Part of the manipulator's heist is to convince Kid Phoebe to get into a machine that is similar to the Casper 1995 machine and turn into a ghost for a few minutes. What? You know, relationships between folks are predicated on trust. To break one's trust, whether through accident or in this case, intention, could and often does inflict trauma to the point of needing to relearn how to exist in the world. I already know you're saying, Wizard, this is a dog shit movie. Stop reading into it. Au contraire, my friend, I know it's a dog shit movie, and I'm gonna call out how stinky it is when I have to smell it. Did you know that more than half of Americans who have ever been in a monogamous relationship say they have been cheated on? Humans base our entire worldview on interacting with other humans based on trust. You see the world through one lens, and once your trust is broken, you refocus and change how you perceive connection and communication so that you don't get hurt again. There's a reason Dante put those who commit treachery into the ninth and bottom layer of hell. It's like, yeah, traitors obliterate how people can and do perceive the world. It's a very serious conversation that we really don't have. Cheaters are wicked people. Who were you? Because you weren't the you I thought you were. And I thought I knew you. But I didn't know you at all. And I never knew you. So all the things we did together, those weren't the things that I thought were happening. Something else was happening. You are someone else, and that means that I'm someone else, because I'm actually a sucker who's so naive I fell for this facade. I must not understand anything about human beings, and certainly not know anything about myself, and it's a spiral of someone's psyche going around and around before finally getting flushed. Well, what does that have to do with this shitty movie? I'm glad you asked. Ghost Girl Melody knowingly and willingly manipulates Kid Phoebe into getting into a machine that technically unalives her for a couple of minutes. If anything had gone wrong, Kid Phoebe would be permanently offline. So, this is not someone who should be so easily forgiven. You made a kid off herself with selfish intentions. That person does not get redeemed on accident. You need to earn that shit. You need to make up for that shit. The balance of the story makes no fucking sense. Now, I know it's like, oh, well, you're reading too far into it. Yeah, probably. But off. Because the details matter, right? Otherwise, what are we doing here? Is filmmaking not an expression of humanity? Are we just here to suffer? Tying things up, Did you know that there actually was a spiritual sequel to Ghostbusters 2? And the entire original Ghostbusters cast is in it? Ghostbusters, the video game, released in 2009 with the cast reprising their original roles. It's been remastered recently for PlayStation 4. It has since been decanonized in lieu of the Afterlife film, but the story did a great job of tying the original films together, revisiting old ghosts and iconic spots while telling a pretty interesting story. I actually just picked it up myself, the PS4 version, recently. I played the 2009 version back on the Xbox 360, but I wanted the remaster and I wanted a physical copy because, you know, physical media is going away. Anyway, highly recommend playing it or watching the story on YouTube if you're a fan looking for something Ghostbusters that's actually good. Ghostbusters Afterlife and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire suffer from the same syndrome of corporate ick. Let's squeeze every last drop of juice out of this lemon to appease the stockholders today, but give the customers a big case of ick, you've killed my beloved franchise. Frozen Empire really only broke even at the box office, so I can't see them making any more films. I don't know if there's an after-credit scene, but I hope there isn't one. Leave this dead franchise alone. You've done enough damage for 20 lifetimes. My friends, I want to thank you for watching this pondering episode. If you would please subscribe to the new channel if this video was valuable and interesting to you. Like the video if you liked the video, and if you didn't like it, well, thanks for hanging around for this long. I'm sure I'll hear from you in the comments. Until next time, my friends, create, innovate, inspire. May the Force be with you. And for the love of God, cancel Disney Plus if you have it. You should cancel it if you have it. They're raising the price on it anyway, and it's not worth it. Yeah. Who are you going to call?